Hello and welcome to my new video. In this video, I want to talk with you again about the Anker SOLIX Solarbank 3 Pro. And I also want to take a closer look at the artificial intelligence function with you. Here behind me, you can see the Anker SOLIX Solarbank 3 with an expansion battery. I just wrote it on there. That's the BP 2700 watt hours. And below it is the previous model, the BP 1600 watt hours. So you can see the batteries can be combined with each other here, and you can even continue working with the Solarbank 3 Pro using the old batteries or a mix of them. That's just a side note. Now, as I said, let's get to this system. I already showed you before that I mainly use this system to optimally supply devices in my household with energy. There's a small heat pump located under this system here. This ensures that my domestic water is heated. I've had it set up like this for a while now, even last year. Then right here at this spot, the Anker SOLIX Solarbank 2 was placed. We can take a quick look at the consumption values here. Here we see the year 2024. At the beginning of the year, I was still using the first generation, and starting in July, I put the Solarbank Pro 2 into operation here. As you can see, we have most of the generation in the summer, of course. You can see that it works pretty well until September, and then in October, November, and especially December, it drops off sharply. For example, in October, I was still generating about 68 to 70 kilowatts per hour. In the corresponding November, it's still 35 kilowatts per hour, and in December, it drops down to about 15 to 16 kilowatts per hour. Then let's move on to the next year. Here we can see that in January, it was already a bit better, and we were able to generate 32.4 kilowatts per hour again. But I have to say, this system is not fully equipped. That means we could connect a lot more modules here. Pretty small modules were installed here. Then, as you can see, I switched over to the Solarbank 3 here in the summer or early summer. And here you can already see the first values of the Solarbank 3 Pro. I put it into operation in May, and then here we already have the values for June 2025. Here we've been able to generate 141.87 kilowatt hours so far. We can also break this down into the different photovoltaic strings so you can see what each individual photovoltaic string has generated. What's important for me, I haven't reached the maximum photovoltaic output yet. I could add more here. That's why the values here are a bit lower. Just to put everything into numbers again. With the Solarbank 2, in the few months it has been in operation here in 2024, we were able to generate 485 kilowatt hours. I also almost completely used that up. We can see that down here. Accordingly, we had a very high self-consumption rate, almost 100%, and of course in 2025 we were able to achieve about 486 kilowatt hours again. So my electricity here costs about 37 to 38 cents per kilowatt hour. A saving of 359, so let's say around 360 euros in this short period. With the Solarbank 2 Pro. The Solarbank 3 Pro now also has a smart meter here with me, as you can see. This is shown here in the graphic, and of course I'm using the artificial intelligence function here. This allows me to manage my electricity consumption even better and pay even more attention to making sure I don't waste or lose any energy. Here, we can now also have the surplus that's generated calculated by the artificial intelligence function and use it efficiently through the smart plugins. You can see here, since the Solarbank 3 Pro has been in operation at my place, we've already saved about 74.43 euros, so we've saved on electricity costs that I would have otherwise paid. And that was just about 1.5 months. That means this summer it's going especially well, of course with the new system, but now we can take a look at the new artificial intelligence function and how we can use it effectively. For the artificial intelligence function, you need to have the smart meter installed. I've explained exactly how this works in this video, and by activating the so-called smart or intelligent mode, you can use this function. That means when we have this function activated, the intelligent mode usually needs 24 hours to get itself set up. And by the latest, it will let you know by 10 o'clock the next day how much energy, or rather how much surplus, you can still plan for, and then distribute that accordingly to the smart plugins. That means we could then make good use of the surplus electricity that we might otherwise lose, because it can no longer be stored in the batteries or used here accordingly. What can you do with surplus electricity? For example, you can charge other batteries. And what could be better here than, for example, charging an e-bike? That would be a very good, useful feature that I could offer you here. For example, we can just take a look at it here with me. I've already mentioned in several videos that I'm now using the e-bike more often, especially for shorter distances. Let's say within a radius of 10 kilometers, I really enjoy getting around by e-bike, for example, for shopping or other activities. Here I have a nice new e-bike from the company Fido. Fido is a leading e-bike company with the mission to revolutionize pedaling in the city and outdoors. With Fido, we have a manufacturer that is also available with a local subsidiary presence in Germany. So what this means is, of course, with this vehicle, you also get a German subsidiary. Here, this bike is the Fido Air, and we have a bike with a carbon frame. The special feature of this bike, it weighs only 13.75 kilos, which makes it very, very light and therefore, of course, very easy to handle in everyday life. That means we can easily lift it over something or transport it without any problems. What I especially like about this bike is that we have a torque-controlled motor here, which regulates itself automatically. As I said, we have a carbon frame and a very minimalist design, which means we have a very simply built bike here, which can actually be controlled here with just 2 buttons. Down here we have a power button, and up here we have a fingerprint sensor, which can also be used to set the riding modes or to turn on the lights. Nevertheless, this manufacturer also offers a smartwatch that can be used to control the bike. Of course, the bike is IP54 certified and has no rusting parts, which means the entire bike is basically maintenance-free. I especially want to mention the chain here. Actually, we don't have a chain, but rather a carbon belt drive, which also allows for a very clean ride. And of course, you don't have to oil any parts here. The bike can reach a range of up to 60 kilometers. Still, we have to charge it eventually. Since I mostly use it for short distances, the battery is usually not completely empty. And how do I charge the bike now? I charge it intelligently and let it be controlled by the Anker system, by the Anker SOLIX Solarbank, through the artificial intelligence. That means we simply connect the charging cable here. We have a small charger here. When we put the bike in the garage, we just connect it with this and simply plug the smart plug-in into a free socket. We plug the charger into the smart plug-in and just take a quick look at the Anker app. By the way, a quick note here, if you're interested in the Fido Air, just check the video description below. There, I'll link you to the sources where you can get the bike. And important, Prime Day is just around the corner, of course. There will be some very interesting discounts for you again. Nevertheless, let's first get to setting up our smart charging function. We have now connected the bicycle, the e-bike, to our Anker SOLIX smart socket, smart plug-in. How does it work and how do we use it? Let's quickly look at the app. Important, to use this feature, you need to have the smart mode activated. You simply go to your main overview, click on the mode here and select the smart mode at the top. When you select it for the first time, as mentioned, it will run a 24-hour test period, and after that, it will be fully available to you. Important. When you use the system, you also need to connect your smart sockets, which you can see here on the side in my graphic, to the system, of course. And here's another important note. Of course, we can use several smart plugins here and use them accordingly to intelligently utilize our surplus. That means you can not only connect your e-bike, for example, you can also use a washing machine, a power station, or other devices, which you can then intelligently charge with the system. How does that work? You can already see it down here. My smart mode is active. Let's just click on it and see. I've already had it activated here for 3 days. And we can already see the first results here. While we're in the overview, we can also go ahead and configure the smart mode. There are different ways to do this. For example, we can click up here or on the gear icon. You can always come back to this configuration. And you can see here that I've installed 2 smart plugins. One of the smart plugins is for my e-bike. I basically have my e-bike connected to it all the time. That means when I finish my ride, I put the e-bike in the garage and plug it into the smart socket. When energy is available, my e-bike charges. Of course, especially now in the summer, this guarantees that I always have a charged e-bike and never have to buy electricity from the grid for my e-bike. That way, I ride completely for free. You can also add more plugins. For instance, I have another smart plug-in installed upstairs in my kitchen. And here I also have various appliances connected, like maybe even the dishwasher or other devices, which you can also program here. How do we program the smart plug-in? Once the artificial intelligence's learning phase is complete, we click on the icon over here. You see, I've already set it up, but I'll just delete it now so you can see it again. Now we have the smart plug-in here for our e-bike. I click on it, and here we can see the option for intelligent charging. That means down here we have various time slots available to us. We can enable or disable them. Here you can define when you want to charge your e-bike. Important, of course, do this during the period when surplus is actually available. This is not the period when the device actually turns on, but rather the period when you give the system the opportunity to use Smart Plug-in. What needs to happen for it to be turned on? Or how do you find out which periods work? The artificial intelligence, or let's say the artificial intelligence from Anker, will inform you of a kind of forecast every day by 10 o'clock at the latest. You will receive this as a push notification. You can check it in your Anker app, or I even get it as a push notification on my smartwatch here. And here you will be informed when you can expect a surplus. For me, that's usually possible on very good days between 8 and 12 o'clock, or normally when I also use a lot of electricity between 12 and 18 o'clock. After 6 p.m., that's no longer possible for me, so I'll remove these two time periods now. You can also leave them on because effectively the artificial intelligence controls that automatically. In these two time periods, I'm now giving the option to charge my e-bike here. In this case, I'll confirm that. And now you can see that the smart plug is on standby from 8 to 18 o'clock, ready to turn on when there are surpluses. You can easily offset that with the e-bike as the smart plug activates then. And the e-bike takes what it needs through the charger until it's full, and then we've charged it and for free. How do we know when we have surpluses? We can take another look at that. Let's just go to the overview for this day. And you can see the charging curve here. The front yellow filled part is the past time. Here, that's what we've already charged. That actually happened. And back here, this period is the estimated yield of the system. That means the artificial intelligence predicted that. Weather data, consumption data, and all key information available to the system are used to make this prediction. And during this period, of course, your smart plug-in can then sensibly distribute the energy to your devices for you. Of course, you're not limited to just 2 smart plugins like I am here. You can, of course, add more devices. That makes sense, of course, if your system is very large and you've installed the full maximum photovoltaic capacity. In that case, it might make sense to install 1 or 2 more smart plugins and maybe use a few more devices. How can you optimize the orientation of your system? I can show you with my setup. I have several modules installed. And importantly, with the SOLARBANK Pro 3, we of course have the option to connect 4 corresponding modules. And each module has its own maximum power point tracking controller, which means each module operates independently. In this case, I always recommend set up your system so that maybe one module faces west, one module faces south, and one module faces east. Or 2 modules facing south, 1 east, and 1 west. Depending on when you use the most electricity, you can align the modules accordingly. Of course, that also depends on your situation at home. But this way, you can get the maximum yield from the system. The sun rises early, moves over the first modules, then the south modules, and sets in the west. And this way, you can generate energy evenly throughout the whole day and use it optimally for yourselves. Here's another tip I can give you. Of course, the Anker SOLIX Solarbank Pro also has an emergency power outlet. I especially like to use this during the summer months because here I can use the electricity I generate directly. This also applies to end users needing more power because, as you know, you're only allowed to feed 800 watts into the grid, but with the emergency power outlet, you can connect up to 1,200 watts. And the advantage, these now connect directly to the Anker SOLIX Solarbank 3 Pro, bypassing your power grid. So what this means is, with this, you can use your energy even more efficiently. For example, I connected a small heat pump to this emergency power outlet. This one has an energy consumption of 600 to 800 watts and produces my hot water, especially in the summer. Which of course means I can also produce it completely free of charge, especially on nice days, since it's powered here through the emergency power outlet. and the advantage I can still feed 800 watts into the grid and still draw up to 1200 watts from the emergency power outlet. So you have effectively used 2000 watts without doing anything illegal. That means this is a completely legal way to use electricity. And that way, you can make even better use of your options. So, and with that, I've reached the end of the video again. At this point, of course, I have a request for you. If you have more questions, especially about the Anker SOLIX Solarbank Pro 3, leave them in the comments below. That way, I can create more videos from this material, and of course, these will help all of us. If you're interested in the Anker SOLIX Solarbank 3 Pro smart plugins or other Anker products, check the video description below. There, I'll link you to the sources for these systems, and important, Prime Day is just around the corner. That means during this period, we can of course save a lot again with the corresponding deals. If you enjoyed or found my video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Want to see more videos? No problem, just subscribe to my channel here, because subscribing on YouTube is of course free. With that, I'll say goodbye. See you next time. Yours, Mark, on YouTube.